3D tools, and so all I did was apply a gradient, and I did find a palette of gradients under the swatch library. Lots of great things here and so forth. And remind me, because it's coming into my head, remind me to show you the symbol library, how valuable that is for patterns. Let's get back to this gradient. So on the gradient tool, here, right here, it is one of those things where it has, without a doubt, changed on me. And you can see I'm struggling with it right now, which I'm happy so that you can see how much I struggle just as much as you do. Why this is giving me a problem, I don't know, but we'll find out. I want to keep this. I want to keep the line. Yes, I do. Welcome to software, folks. I didn't have that in the foreground. So trust me, it's not because you're a beginner, Cassidy. It's just welcome to software. I didn't have this forward, and therefore my gradient didn't appear. Now, technically, that really is a bug. That's like, really, folks? You can't show me my gradient because I don't have this thing in the foreground. So, you know, that is what I live with. And this is this tool, like the type tool, has gone through many iterations of versions, trying to make it the easiest for us. The best way to look at it is that you get this line, and what you want to do is you hover over it to get the cryptic there. You get to get the cryptic cursors. And so then, like, I've got the rotate tool now, so I want the rotate tool. And then you, again, don't keep your left hand on your Control Z. And so I'm going to try to move this here. Let's move this. This actually gives you a live paint. And what I'm looking for is the cross section that will let me move this there. See, it used to be a cross section, now it's a black dot. And so now, and then you can bring this in, or you can bring it way out, beyond. So when you make your gradients, which is under Windows, you can actually do a live paint here. So watch, not live paint, I'm sorry, but you can actually edit the color, why the gradient is here versus like saving it to your swatch. So I'm gonna, so this is commonly the same way when you're in Photoshop or Illustrator. And so if I wanted to add a color, I click it, double click, choose my color, and there I have it there. Now, and then here, this should have taken my live, but I don't know, maybe it's not, I'm out of the picture, so I'll bring it back, and there it is. So it will let you edit lively, is what I'm saying, to be able to get what you want. And again, the other important thing to remember is when you see the word opacity, that means that I could make this color, as it's highlighted with the blue, 0 transparency. And what that means is that whatever I have underneath it could be seen. Now that can be really cool because you could do something like this. Let me go back. Let me back this up. And that is, let me take this image here. See, this is a path, right? This is an object. I want to duplicate it because I want to put a pattern behind that. And now you can get a gradient on top of a pattern. So first thing I do, you highlight it, come up here, and you duplicate it. And again, I sort of like to give some references that it's a copy. Should always sit next to whatever it's copied from. And now on here, I'm going to just put dots. Let's make sure it's working. I don't think it is. No, it's not, because I've got to select it and then choose my dots. There. So now I have that on just that shape. And now my gradient, that's interesting. The gradient is, oh, that's because I have a 0 transparency, I guess. That's why that is there. Because if I put it above, I don't have the transparency. I was thinking like, wait a minute, because we all know the top layer is a foreground, the bottom layer is a background. I don't. So now let me come up here. And now you notice how I just double clicked. Let's go back to that experience. So this is something, just to give you an idea of how complicated these programs are getting, is that they realize that if you double click, you go into what we call the isolation mode. So when you're in programs like Photoshop doesn't have this. No, Photoshop does not have this. But programs that are very, very powerful and very complex do have this. I would assume InDesign would have this because it's Adobe and it's complicated. But the point to be made is that when you have a lot of these illustrations and a lot of these designs, it gets crowded and you want to get down into something. You can just double click the one element and it throws everything away. Not really, but turns off everything so you can just focus on that one thumbnail or that one little glitch. Really helpful. So watch how I do that. I'm going to double, like right here, I'm going to double click it. And you see, it's changed now into a ghost. And now I'm only editing this. Everything is sort of like a ghost away, and I can't click it, but my table is live. And now I can click this and make this, whoops, I can click this and make this become 0 transparency. And then you come out of it by clicking left here. And now you're back. So not that I would like that, but I wanted to show you that that was possible. So I could go back again, double click, come up to this one, and maybe I could bring that down a little bit more so that it fades a little bit easier on there. And I don't want to get picky because I want to go to show you the video tools as well. And again, to come out of it, just click this. So that's the value of Live Paint, where you can put photographs in here. Remember, I could do a clipping mask, right? Do we all know how to do the clipping mask? That takes a photograph and crops the photograph to the form. I take that as a yes, right? Okay, because that's really super important in that context. But any good questions on, oh, let me come out of this all the way. See, I could see I was not all the way out. Any other good questions on Live Paint in that aspect? And Cassie, I hope it's working for you now.
Yeah, it is. I figured it all out.
Okay, good. So that's important to always know that in a vector program, if form is not closed, it won't fill completely. So that was
way too late to be asking this, but what does it mean to vector something?
okay. Not too late, never too late, never too late. So basically, I'll show you right now because seeing it helps you to understand it. Watch what happens when I get really close.
No pixelization, just
Exactly.
perfect. That's what it means?
That's exactly what it means.
Okie dokie, didn't know that.
So vectors are created with points. 2 points make a line. When you work in Illustrator, you can design something that blows up to Times Square with just the document you have on your workstation. Not the case with Photoshop. Photoshop is what we call a bitmap program. So Procreate is a bitmap program. You cannot go big. Whatever you started with, you have to keep that size. You can go down and not lose too much resolution. I mean, if you have a really busy pattern, you will lose things in your pattern when you scale down, but the resolution kind of stays intact. But you cannot take that bitmap and make it big. You cannot. So when you work in a bitmap program, theoretically, work as big as you can, because you know you can always go down. Now, there's lots of programs that, you know, say, oh, we can make a poor thing make big, but it's really, it costs you money. Or, and in actuality, just to give you, you know, when you see, I can't grab it over here. Let me see if I can grab it quickly. This is a really important conversation, because this is really understanding the importance of the vector and the bitmap. And now that we're moving into bitmap, this is a good conversation to be having with it. But you remember the iPhoto images on buildings in New York City. iPhoto billboards. I guess I gotta say billboards. iPhoto billboards. iPhoto billboards. Something like this, right? Like your camera, like this, right? My camera took this photo. My smartphone took this photo that's on a billboard, right? I'm sorry, I can't find it quickly enough for you. But the point to be made is my camera, my smartphone, oh yeah, here it is, shot on iPhone 6. This image was shot on a smartphone, not an expensive camera, on a smart. How did they do that? How did they get something that only comes into you with a 8x10, 300 DPI? Now, when you look at it on your computer, it will say 72 DPI at 36 inches. But print must be 300 to be good for print. So what they do to get that to happen is they take their iPhoto image, they print it on an 8x10 piece of paper. Beautiful photo print, probably professionally printed photo. Then they take that photo to a vendor, an external service that scans it at like 32,000 DPI, something insane like that. Very expensive. But that is how you get good resolution from something that's small, because it has to go through the scanning process. That is not the case with Illustrator. Whatever you draw in Illustrator as vectors, not as a cropped image, photo image in Illustrator. You can't, if you crop a photo and you scale it up, it's not gonna have that resolution. Only the vector lines and brushes and things like that will be scalable with no loss of resolution. So the thing to remember about, and I teach this in my digital imaging, and this is important for us because we're moving into Photoshop. And I want to talk about our Photoshop as we are going to do, is because I was preparing this to show you on here, so that, you know, how do you get your illustrations and designs onto you? And
That's crazy. How'd you do that?
I'm going to show you. That was my tutorial for today that I want to show you, because it's really fun. And so everything is creatively possible when you know Photoshop and Illustrator, but you do have to know both of them. And unfortunately, this class, you know, focuses a lot on Illustrator, but anytime you get an opportunity to take a Photoshop class, definitely take it. So, so the thing that I'm trying to stay on here is that if you took, and this is really simple, this is what you can do at home. If you had a postage stamp, as an example, right? If you had a small swatch, for example, and you know you want that to be of good resolution, you can put it on your scanning bed. And most commercial scanning beds will give you 1200 DPI. Now, if you scanned it at 300 DPI, it would give you perfect resolution for the size that it is, which is 2 inches by 2 inches. But if you wanted that image to be 6 inches and good resolution, that's when you just double up the 300. 300, 600, 900, 1200, and then you will get the swatch to be 8 by 10 at perfect resolution. So that's important to remember. So when you have those lovely photos that are really tiny, but again, sometimes if the photo is too damaged or there's not enough detail, even the 600 or the 1200 is not going to help the photo. The image has to be there to be good, to be able, but the important thing is resolution. And so that's how iPhoto does their billboards. That's how you can get swatches to become really illustriously big and so forth, and have good resolution to be able to crop into that. So again, yeah, when we're in bitmap, this is what happens with bitmap. That is exactly what happens in bitmap. So, and I do have to say that you can bring things in, and I'm curious right now, I brought this in, but I rasterized it. And what I'm going to try to do is try to do this without rasterizing this. And the tool that I did to get this done, just to show you, was, here, let me do this. Let's do this again. Let me take this away. Oh no, let me just duplicate this. Right click. See, right click duplicate is here for you, unlike Illustrator. So I'll just turn this off. So the tool that I did this, and then I'll show you how you get the layers on top. And it's pretty straightforward, and it'll start clicking once I show you. But the tool that is tricky is this one. So first of all, the other thing that I wanted to talk about today, and we'll come back when we, but I want to show you this because we're almost on our break, and I want you to play with it and tell me if you have any trouble with it, and then we'll get into the timeline. So the tool is this. You come up here to Image, Edit, Puppet Warp. And what it does, it gives you kind of like this push pin situation. Now the push pin actually the first one locks the radius of the image. But then the other one is, if I'm here, I can click this. And once you click it, you can mouse down and you can begin to pull. And mouse down again and begin to, you see, you can begin to pull it in. But you see how it rotates around the initial axis. It's a really thick, wonderful kind of tool, and it's fairly new. So I'm thrilled about it because you can see you can get things to fit. And I tell you, you're going to start seeing a lot of fashion stuff with this imagery.
What tool is that?
That is under Edit, Puppet, Warp. Got it.
Okay.
Yeah. And so just remember your first, and then and before we leave, is you could say, no, I don't like that up here. You see up here? Go away. Bring this down. Oh, let me get this up. Here. Up, 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 up. Up, 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 up. Windows are always right up here. You see this? This is like, no, I don't like what I did. Go back. Or, yes, I do like it. Accept it. So again, let me show you. The first one in Puppet Warp establishes the axis of where you're moving. So I'll put it here. Then the second one is the one where you click and stay mouse down in there, mouse down and drag. And then the next one, and you can begin to move it. Mouse again, like so. I have the other one on. Let's get rid of that. See, I can't turn that layer off because I've got to accept it, so I'll accept it. Turn this one off. I had both of them on at the same time. That's confusing. So again, Puppet Warp, establish the axis that it's going to rotate around. Click above, mouse down, and drag. And you see it's like a movable piece of clay. And you can bring this back to get in by mousing down. You have to mouse down on there. And don't forget your Control Z's, or just undo it. So it took me a little bit of time, but it's really good. So again, and you can again bring them up here. I'm going to put it further away, and I'm going to come down here, and you see it's a little bit easier when that axis is further away. When it was too close, it rotates around it on there. And that is the puppet tool. So when we come back, I'll show you how we did the other pieces, but I can tell you right now, all this is copy and paste in place. Now, what I put this black here because whenever you do edges in Photoshop, you want to be sure you see the edges, because when you have images on, you can't see your images. I mean your edges. I'm sorry, edges. So that's when you use your eraser tool. And let me get on that layer because it's telling me that I'm not on that layer. And the other thing is this one right here, just to tell you the difference on this. Notice the difference. This is a soft, what do you call it? A soft marquee of ants. In other words, as I said in the beginning, these marching ants are the most important things. Every tool relates to these marching ants. What you're trying to do is to get the marching ants in the location of where you want it to be. And so that's why pretty much every tool in Photoshop is getting those marching ants in where you want it to go. And I will show you how to get, like when you have blown hair that's blowing, or trees or bridges or lace, and you want to get rid of the environment, there's a really quick way to do that. And so I can show you that. But the point to be made is that when I made the cleanup like this to copy, right? Just coming over here, I did a copy, and then I did a paste in place, and it makes a layer all by itself. And so then I moved it above. I pushed it on to be the foreground. And that's how I did this. But what I wanted to show you is that when you make those marching ants, like this and this one, you notice how soft the edge is. That's because when I use this tool, let me move this out of the way. Windows, the real estate in Photoshop is difficult, especially because we move things around, is feather. Feather up here, if you put like 4 pixels on here, it will soften the edge. It won't be hard edge. If it's 0, which sometimes you want, and sometimes you want soft. This is a hard edge right here. This is a soft edge, so it picked up the other aspects of the photo, which is her blouse. That's what it picked up. It picked up her blouse, where here was a hard edge, and you know it cropped just right wherever I put it, it made it. So you can see up here, this is soft edge, this is hard edge.